Hi, this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
Three, two, one, ready, go!
What's up, everybody? I actually have to be honest with you, I'm not feeling super great today, so this might wind up being a much shorter video than usual, although every time I say that it doesn't wind up being shorter at all because I'm a ham and I just talk forever. Yeah, if it is shorter or it seems like I'm not really going as in-depth as I usually do, then that's probably why. For our first piece of news, let's talk about Steep. It is in open beta right now. It's only going to be for this weekend. I think that it ends on Monday, but the game does come out on December 2nd, so you don't have that long to wait even if you don't get your hands on it this weekend. If you want to play it, it's super easy. All you have to do is go onto Steam, find the Steep page, install the game, and then hop in. So far, the reviews are pretty mixed, it looks like, but I'm gonna leave it to you to make your own opinions, because again, it is open beta. Although, anytime there's a beta that's really, really close to the actual release of the game, I'm like, okay, so you actually can't make that many huge changes to this in the time that's left, but that's okay, do what you gotta do. The Overwatch graphic novel First Strike has been canceled, which is such a super bummer because it's supposed to be like the original story of all of the old Overwatch members and stuff. The reason that they're canceling it makes a lot of sense. They realized that the story that First Strike was telling is not their truth anymore. Does that make sense? The longer that they go about developing the world, developing new characters, they're like, wait, the way that this was written is no longer correct as we see it. Like, we don't think that this was the story anymore, right? So they can't release it because they don't think that that it's not the right story. Obviously, they've been putting out plenty of other multimedia to go along with Overwatch that's been really, really cool and really fun to read and watch and all of that. But, you know, if all of them as a group are like, wait, that's not what happened, this is what happened, I understand them being like, we can't release that anymore. The original idea for the graphic novel dates back to the early days of the game's development and came from our desire to tell the story of the founding of Overwatch during the Omnic Crisis. In the years since First Strike's conception, we've done a lot of development on the universe and its story. While the core of this story remains, we've changed and expanded upon how we see the events that took place during the first days of Overwatch. I'd like to thank everyone for their enthusiasm, passion, and support that you've shown toward the Overwatch universe. We have a number of stories in development that will delve deeper into the world and its heroes, and we can't wait to share them with you in the coming months. First Strike was supposed to come out this month. I don't know if it was like fully made and like ready to go, and then they went, wait, we can't sell that. Or if they actually canceled this quite a while back and just never said anything. But either way, you know what? If it's not their truth anymore, then they shouldn't share it, and I support it. Oh, I almost forgot, it's also the Overwatch free weekend. So if you see this in time and you want to take part in that, Overwatch is totally free for this weekend, and you can try it out if you haven't had a chance to, so there you go. Okay, cool. Possibly because of No Man's Sky, Steam has decided that their restrictions on screenshots needed to be tightened a little bit. A lot of you might remember how No Man's Sky came out, and when you went back and looked at the screenshots that were on the Steam page for a while, it was like, this is not the same game, right? And there was a big old problem. So, Steam has made a lot of changes to what they will allow for a screenshot for a game. Like, it has to actually be a screenshot. We haven't been super crisp on guidelines for screenshots in the past, so we'd like to take this opportunity to clarify some rules in this space. When the screenshot section of a store page is used for images other than screenshots that depict the game, it can make it harder for customers to understand what the product is that they're looking at. Additionally, we're going to start showing game screenshots in more places as described above, and these images need to be able to represent the game. So yeah, publishers can no longer use concept art, pre-rendered cinematic stills, or images that contain awards, marketing copy, or written product descriptions in the screenshot section of the games. So again, nothing that isn't a screenshot, folks. It's interesting seeing how No Man's Sky has affected a lot of things. I mean, they haven't come right out and said like, we are doing this because of No Man's Sky, but it is one of the bigger ones that caused a big ol' like kerfuffle, if you will. Like, a lot of people asked for their money back because that was not the game that they saw in the screenshots, right? I understand why this is happening, absolutely, and from a consumer standpoint, Thank goodness. Another bit of news to help consumers and sort of support more transparency in the gaming industry actually comes from EA. Any YouTuber, streamer, or otherwise active influencer who enters into a collaboration with Electronic Arts in their content creation and does not yet use their own labeling system is now requested to use our hashtags and watermarks. So there's two different watermarks. There's supported by EA and there's advertisement. Supported by covers all content that EA has supported, such as through invitations to events or shows, or the coverage of travel expenses. EA will have no direct influence over the creation of this content. And then advertising, actual advertising covering content that EA could have editorial influence over or content that EA itself has created. And then like if you're making a tweet or something, you just use a hashtag. So hashtag advertisement or hashtag supported by EA. I actually really love this because there's always been this strange gray area of, well, I was just invited to an event where I got to play the game, but they didn't like pay me and they didn't, give me the game for free and they didn't have any say over content that I made while I was there. So does that actually count? And I think a lot of people would agree, like, yes, it does count, but to what extent? Like, how do we say, okay, yes, this content isn't paid for by EA, but I have been treated nicely by the company. And if you think that that affects, the way that I will talk about the company, and it probably will, then you should know that somehow. I can definitely say that there are some companies who have never paid for a video from me, but who have supported me in the past, who have flown me somewhere to play a game. And that's something that maybe people should know, especially if we're, developing criticism or talking about games. If more companies wanted to offer assets like this, I think that that would be awesome. But in the meantime, it's up to us to also read up on what the rules are and be able to act on those rules. There are absolutely guidelines for people like me, people like Jesse, people who are just Instagram influencers, people who are just Twitter influencers, right? Like regardless, there are rules and there are guidelines. And the more that companies are stepping up to be like, hey, by the way, since, these are the guidelines, here's some assets for you to use to help you be on the level. If you are a League of Legends player, you might have noticed that there is a new beta client. That is to say, the client that you launch the game with, there is a newer version of it, but it's in beta. Is that clear? It's a 1.3 gigabyte download, which isn't that big, and you actually aren't being forced to download it at all. So if you want to stick with the legacy client, you totally can. But honestly, the more people that jump into the beta client early on, the better, because it's going to give them a lot of data to work with to figure out what works and what doesn't. The legacy and updated client are sharing a few files, and the updated client will fail to launch if the legacy client is uninstalled. We'll clean out the old files for you once we're ready to move completely to the updated client. By the end of the open beta, the updated client will be a complete replacement for the legacy client, plus a few new features. It takes serious time and resources to support any large piece of software, so we'll focus exclusively on the updated client. So this new beta client is going to be rolled out in a couple of different smaller updates. So if you're interested, again, in switching over to that and sort of helping give them the data that they need in order to work out all of the bugs, that would be amazing for them, I'm sure, but if you want to just stick with the legacy client, it will disappear once the new client is all ready to go, but for now you can just stick with that for sure. A lot of people have been talking about a fake trailer in Watch Dogs 2 that looks vaguely No Man's Sky-ish. For the most part, people sort of assumed, oh, this is a goof on like leaked trailers, and oh, it even looks like No Man's Sky, like this is obviously a goof. But it turns out, according to a few sources, it turns out that this is actually a trailer for a game that was supposed to be released and announced next year called Pioneer. So why would they float that out to us now with no information whatsoever? Like, what's that situation? If I was going to guess, if I was going to take me a smidgen of a guess, I would say that the fact that it feels No Man's Sky-ish was the problem, right? Maybe when No Man's Sky came out, they were like, ooh, that's kind of similar to what we were doing. Maybe we should mix this up. Like maybe they planned on actually announcing that game and then decided not to because they need to rework a bunch of stuff. Either way, it's kind of like a weird choice, right? To like put a trailer in a game and have everybody be like, wait, is this a real, is it not a, I don't think it's real, but then it turns out it might be real. Like that's so strange and confusing. So if you are one of many, many, many people who is confused about that, there you go. There's the rumor As of right now, few people have confirmed it is a real game codenamed Pioneer. But whether or not it will ever actually be a for reals game, if it's been scrapped at this point, if it's being redone, who knows? But anywho, that's been my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. If you would like to watch any of my Twitch streams, you can find them at twitch.tv/dexteritybonus. And all of next week, I'm going to be in Oregon with Smam for Thanksgiving. That means that I might have a little bit limited social media interactions. Videos have been pretty sparse lately, so they will continue to be sparse. And streams will be a little hiccupy. So just overall, things are gonna be, you know, a little light. Things are gonna be light while I'm spending time with family, but just as a heads up for you guys. I hope that you have an amazing week and a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again next week. Okay, bye-bye. Mwah. Is that clear?